Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Vasudeva sutang devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. So, we were in that portion of the 6th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, where we find Bhagavan Sri Krishna is enunciating the results which finds expression in one's life who has attained the highest spiritual realization. So what are those things? One is this Prashanta Manasa. He becomes a person of equipoise. Nothing can disturb him. But at the same time, we find another aspect, that he has become Samadarshi. Means there is no distinction of high and low as per his interaction with the world is concerned. He deals with everyone with the same attitude, with the same reverence, with the same respect, seeing the divinity in each and every being. And it is not only Samadarshitva. Samadarshitva comes even for a person who has attained the self, knowing the self which transcends this phenomenal existence. It is a non-dual conscious principle which is being projected as the universe. So he sees everywhere the Lord. But along with Samadarshitva, another aspect we finds expression in a spiritual aspirant who has gone a bit further to accept the fact that the highest spiritual entity is not the non-dual conscious principle. It is just one of the aspects of that highest spiritual entity. The highest spiritual entity in one aspect is that non-dual conscious principle, which again finds expression as this world of phenomenal existence. And that's a very unique idea in Bhagavad Gita, the idea of Purushottama. So there we find that subtle difference of that pure Advaitic system with the idea which we find propounded in Bhagavad Gita. They have not denied that non-dual existence as the essence behind the entire existence. That is there. But that is just an aspect. To understand that, we resort to another way of reasoning, which in Vedanta we find is very, very prevalent. What is that? That the microcosm and the macrocosm is built in the same plan. In the words of Ramakrishna, Jaha ache bhande, taha ache brahmande. Very nicely he used to say that to find out that when the rice is being cooked in a pot, to find whether the rice has been cooked or not, you need not have to press all the rice between your fingers to find whether it is soft, it has been cooked. Just pick up one rice, and if you find that it is soft, you can be assured of the fact that all the rice has been cooked. So what's the idea? That what you find, the way, the plan, the scheme in which everything is working in the microcosm, even in a single minute cell, know it for certain as the working principle behind the entire universe. Even in cosmology, there's an idea of this holographic universe. And to explain it in a very simple way, it's almost the same idea. Suppose from a distance you see a cross. Now you're keen to know what that cross is made up of. Any figure, of course, is made up of innumerable dots. So you just try to enlarge the picture, you will find that as you enlarge, the resolution decreases and you can see the dots. So all the pictures are made of dots. It's a digital. So now that's why you try to find out that what that cross is made of. And you try to enlarge. And you find that the dots are nothing but small cross. So you become curious. Then what's this small cross? You enlarge. Again you find they are also made up of innumerable small cross, and it goes on. So what's the idea? That the same plan is in the minutest atom as we find it in the cosmic whole. Everywhere it is in the same plan. So in an individual, what we find? The same person who in the deep sleep state, where the entire existence merges in his mind, he is there, his existence is there, but that existence is nowhere projecting as this world of name and form. It's that in that state of diffused consciousness. There you don't even have the sense of body. As Sri Ramakrishna used to very nicely, he used to say that a king so powerful, with so much splendor, grandeur, when he's sleeping, if someone comes and spits on him, he's helpless, he can do nothing. Why? Because that he is the body, that sense also is not there. He is there. As a conscious being, he's still there, but he has no as such identification, what to speak of the external world, not even with his body. He is in that pure state of consciousness. The same person, when he wakes up from this mind, as if the world pops up. The entire idea of the universe is in his mind. The external universe is just a mere suggestion that interacts with his mind to pop up all those ideas as per the circumstances in which he is present and as per the objects of perception he is interacting with. In his mind they are popping up, creating this sense of prapancha. The word prapancha, very nice word. That all the senses, all the sense perceptions which we are having, at last can be boiled down to only 5 perceptions. What are the 5 perceptions? What I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I taste, what I touch. That constitutes my entire universe. And these 5 senses are constantly intermingling. What's the intermingling? When I'm seeing the flower, I see its color, I see its shape, I have its fragrance. When I touch it, I feel its texture. So all these various perceptions are as if conglomerating to give me a sense of whole, that this is a flower, such and such is its color, such and such is its texture, such and such it is fragrance. That composite whole is the thing which my mind is doing. Just like the way you add spice while you are cooking food. So we are spicing up with all these various perceptions to create prapancha. Pancha means these 5 perceptions, prakrishta rupena. In a very nice way, I have mixed them up to create this world of name and form. From where it has came out? From the mind. So this is the idea, that this even in the individual it is happening. Then how can I say that the absolute reality, if the microcosm and the macrocosm is built in the same plan, how can I say that the ultimate reality is the non-dual conscious principle alone? And this world is just Maya. It has no as such tangible reality. It doesn't have tangible reality. It is something which is coming from the mind. But I simply cannot negate it. That is also one of the aspects. Just the way I cannot say when I am waking up, my interactions with the world is false. Only the state when I am in deep sleep, that is the only state of my existence. I cannot say. It is the same me which is finding expression in the deep sleep, in the state of diffused consciousness, the same me, when I wake up, I have the perceptions of this world of name and form. So Sri Ramakrishna in a very nice way is saying, in the gospel you will find that Jar Nitto Tari Lila, the one who is finds expression as the Nitya, as the eternal, unchanging reality, which is in the eternal present. The question of time stops when there is no transformation. It is that non-dual conscious principle which is an eternal present. There is no transformation. There is no annihilation. There is no beginning. It is. So that's the state, is the Nitya. And that again, because of how it happens, we don't know. That's why it is called ignorance. That again, when finds expression, that comes down to this world, to the same conscious principle, now breaks into waves, innumerable waves. The waves of your mind, from which the world is being projected. And this creating this world of name and form. So that's the same reality. Yar Nitto Tari Lila. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, when the snake is coiled up, motionless, it is the same snake, and when it starts moving, it has that wriggling motion, then also it is the same snake. So now when we take this reality not as that non-dual conscious principle alone, we go beyond that, and we conform to the fact that there is a Purushottama, that I am Purusha, but there is an Uttama Purusha, who actually represents the cosmic whole, a being whose one aspect is that non-dual reality, his other aspect is also this world. When I realize this, then wonderful thing happens, that it doesn't end up only in samadarshitva, equal-sightedness. It finds expression as love, compassion, empathy. That I become proactive. It is not just the passive goodness of seeing everyone with equal eyes, not thinking anyone as enemy. That's good. But that doesn't speak of proactiveness. It is a type of passive goodness. But the highest spiritual realization can take us to that proactive state where we start worshipping the entire universe, seeing the Lord alone in His entire creation. When I am in Samadhi, then also I am not losing sight of the Lord, because I am relating to the Lord in one of its aspects. And again, when I am coming down from Samadhi, there's a Vyutthana, then also I don't lose sight of the Lord. I see the same Lord, the same Purushottama, as the manifestation of that same non-dual principle as the world of phenomenal existence. So that way, I never get lost. A pure Advaitin, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Gyani Bhoy Torashe. These words in Gospel you will find. The Gospel is a wonderful scripture. And so you can find the very simple words. So the words are so simple, we sometimes don't realize that what he is speaking. Gyanira Bhoy Torashe. That they are always scared. Why they are scared? That somehow I have to reach that non-dual state. That's the only reality. This is mithya. This is false. So then Sri Ramakrishna is saying, if you take this as false, ojone kom porbe. These simple words. You are not taking the reality as a whole. So it will weigh less. You are just taking only one part of the reality. And tara bhoy, jogira bhoy torashe. They always want to be in that state. They always want to be cocooned in that state of realization, non-dual realization. And as if they want to flee from this worldly existence. But the one who has known the same divinity in his aspect as Purushottama, he is no more afraid of this lila. Sri Ramakrishna is very nicely, his words are wonderful. He says in the gospel, such a soul, paka guti ke kachiye abar khele. Means that in the Ludo, there is this snake and ladder, that thing is there. So with the ladder you go up, with the snake you come down. So we always want somehow to avoid the snake and go to the last 100 mark, so that now I have won. No, I won't play anymore. But the one who is a paka player, paka means the one who is really an adept player, he is not afraid of coming down the snake. So when he finds his game is almost going to be over, but he wants to continue with the game, he intentionally will go to the mouth of the snake to come down so that he can continue with his play. So paka guti ke kachiye abar khele. So that's why if you read the gospel in such simple words, that's why we say sometimes we really lose the sight. The words are so simple. Sometimes we don't realize that it is actually speaking of the very highest dimension of spiritual reality. That's why Swamiji used to say, Ramakrishna's Katha Ved Vedanta ke chhadiye gache. It has transcended the Vedas and Vedantas. In so simple words, he is speaking of this highest transcendental reality. And that's the idea which we find in the 30th verse. As we were studying in the last class, we told that we will continue with this verse again in the next class. So this, when you are relating to the world both in its Nitya as well as Lila, you never feel I am lost. I am never scared of this phenomenal existence and always try to just go to that non-dual existence and remain immersed there. I come down from that, even when I come down from that state, I enjoy the existence as the manifestation of the divine. Sri Ramakrishna in the gospel says so many things he relates. He says that once a Paramahamsa came to Dakshineshwar, always smiling, full of joy. Just seeing him was a pleasure. Just like a small boy, his appearance was. He was an elderly person, but that innocence was in his face, full of joy, and he had a chandelier in his hand. Throughout the day, what was his only thing he used to do? He will take the chandelier in his hand, go out in the sunny weather outside, in outdoors, and he will go on this in his hand, rotating the chandelier. The chandelier he will go on rotating, the light falls, and on the ground there will be the play of its reflection. That light and shade, that play will be there. And he will do that, and he will just constantly laugh and say, Kya prapancha hai? Oh, what a wonderful this conglomeration of this 5 perceptions, 5 senses, this prapancha, this world. What a wonderful, what's the idea? That as if the sun is the non-dual principle, which through this chandelier, which is nothing but that it has been made by so many prisms. There's innumerable prisms. With that, they have been strung together to create a wonderful design, and that's the chandelier, on which these innumerable prisms, the sunlight is falling, and in the ground there's a reflection. There are so many rainbows. Somewhere it is shade, somewhere it is light, and you turn, that pattern goes on changing, and that's the world. Through the mind, the same sunlight is appearing as this conglomeration of light and shade, and that's the world. This is the realization he had, and that makes him always happy, because he never loses sight of the divine. It is always with him. Whether it is when he's looking at the sun, is the same reality. When he's looking at the light falling, the same sunlight falling to the chandelier, to the ground, creating this wonderful panorama, that's also the expression of the same reality. And that's to make him laugh, smile, always a Paramahamsa. That was what Sri Ramakrishna is describing, and that's the idea we find in the 30th verse. What is he saying? Yo mang pashyati sarvatra sarva cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha mena pranashyati. Tasyaham na pranashyami, that to him I am never lost. Sacha mena pranashyati, and he is never lost to me. Means I never get disassociated from him, neither he gets disassociated from me. So these two ideas are there. Lord never gets dissociated from us. He is always connected with us. It is only we who get dissociated with Him. Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel very nicely he says, these words are wonderful. He says, Ishwar Sarvatra Roche, God is everywhere, in each and every being. Bhakta boli kare. Then to whom should I say he is a bhakta, he is a devotee? God is in everyone. In that way, everyone is supposed to be a devotee. Then he says, no. God is in every being. The one who is in him, je tate royeche. Tini sarvabhute royechen. Je tate royeche, shei bhakta. Bhakta boli kake, je tate royeche. The one who is in him. So here, the Lord is stressing both the things. He is, of course, there. He never loses sight of any one of us. He is always with us. But it is we who lose sight of him. So, but here Lord is saying very interesting thing, that neither I lose sight of anyone, that never happens, nor they lose, that such a person who has realized the reality as the Purushottama, he never loses sight of me. When he is in that deep samadhi, he is related to me in one aspect, and when he is interacting with the world, he knows the same world is nothing but the expression of the divine, and again he is relating to me and me alone. So he never loses sight. A jnani feels afraid that when there is a Bhutyana, I come back from the samadhi, I again have to see this world. Lord is not there. The ultimate reality is missing. I have to go back. But such a person, as after the class in the last week, after the class, someone remarked me, and this among you who are here, that isn't it the state of Vijnani which Swamiji, which Ramakrishna is saying? Yes, that's the one. That is the state of Vijnani. In the state of Vijnani, he is no more Jnani. His Jnana is in superlative degree. It is Vishesha Jnana. He never loses sight of that reality. So that's the idea which we find has been indicated in the 30th verse. So now let us proceed to the next verse. That when you have that type of vision, when you never lose sight of the Lord, you no more seek God, you see Him. So that very nice that I was in Brisbane once, long back, when I came here in 2013. Still I was in tourist visa, and I went to Brisbane, and there was some interfaith meet there that time. So I was attending the interfaith meet, and I still remember one Sardarji, one from Sikh faith. He was representing the Sikh faith. He was just giving his presentation. And while starting his presentation, sometimes the Sardarjis are very jovial. They can present their talk in such a manner. They hit the point, but at the same time, they refresh you with some very, joyous remark. So what he told is very interesting. He told, whenever I write my name, just below it I write, God is nowhere. God is nowhere. But I never give space. I write it just in such a way that there is no space between the words. I just write God is nowhere. And then what he told is very interesting, that yes, if you close your eyes and seek God, God is nowhere. But if you open your eyes and see Him in the entire universe, then God is now here. So where you give the space on that, the same word, God is nowhere, becomes God is. So in nowhere, after O you're giving space. But if you are really seeing God everywhere, all the time, then you have to give the space after W, not after O. Then it becomes God is now here. So I never give space. So it is up to you where you give the space. So very nicely he told us, God is now here. That's what Swamiji is saying. Don't seek God, see Him. He is in each and every being. And that's the idea which we find will be expounded in the 31st and in the 32nd verse. What is it saying in 31st verse? Sarva bhuta sthitang yomang bhajati ekatvamasthita. Bhajati ekatvamasthita. That becomes bhajati ekatvamasthita. Sarvatha vartaman api sa yogi mai vartate. So the one who being established in bhajati ekam asthita, in that unity, he worships me. So that he worships me, that being established in that unity, that it is the same Lord who is finding manifestation through this entire universe. So then what happens? Sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. So whatever his or her mode of life is, that yogi abides in me and me alone. Almost the same idea. That whatever may be his mode of life, whether he is in deep samadhi, he is with me, and when he is interacting with the world, he is again with me. So sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. He always abides in me. Vartate means abiding, in whatever state he may be. So this ekatvam asita, being established in that unity, that's the Lord. And then in this verse, the word which is very important is bhajati ekatvam asita. Bhajati. He starts worshipping me in each and every being. The idea of help is no more there. That as the Swami Vivekananda in his Karma Yoga is saying, that let the one who is helping, who is the donor, who is offering, instead of standing on the high pedestal, let him kneel down and let the one who is accepting the gift, he is the one who should stand up on the pedestal, because he is the Lord who has came in the form of the illiterate, as the destitute. If you are giving education to the one who needs education, then God has came as the illiterate to you. Daridra Narayan, Murkha Narayan. These are the terms which Swamiji is saying. These words are not new. It is the old, the wisdom in a new bottle. That as Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel also says, everywhere there's the old wine in the new bottle, old elixir in the new bottle. The same wisdom, only the language has changed. So bhajati ekatvam astita. He worships. That's the idea of Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. That if you see the Jiva as just an ordinary being, at the most you can help him. But it becomes Seva. It's no more Daya. It becomes Seva. And when Sri Ramakrishna heard that 3 pillars of Vaishnavism, Name Ruchi, Vaishnav Shevan, Jive Daya. So that's hearing the Jive Daya, that he went into Samadhi. When he came back from Samadhi, he literally spat on the ground, saying, "You insignificant creature, how can you have compassion towards the Jiva? You are such a small, insignificant creature." Then he said, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. See the Lord in each and every being and serve him. That's the thing, the same idea here. This bhajati ekatvam astita, saying the Lord. And this is the service which speaks of another wonderful principle which Swamiji used to say, that nothing is secular, everything is spiritual. That I cannot compartmentalize my spiritual life from my secular life. These are two not separate, watertight compartments. That's what generally we feel. That in the morning when I wake up, after my morning ablutions, my shower, I have the habit to go to the shrine, as has been instructed by my spiritual preceptor. I go to the small corner of my house where the shrine is, and for some small time, I am totally secluded from the world. I am as if communing with the divine through whatever rituals I am doing. Maybe showing the incense stick, offering flowers, sitting and meditating, chanting some stotras. I feel uplifted. And now I think, now my day-to-day life starts, which has nothing to do with this small half an hour spirituality which I practiced early in the morning. Sri Ramakrishna, that's why he's saying, all our spirituality is still breakfast. Now I sit for my breakfast in the dining table. My spirituality is over. Now my secular life starts. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that our spirituality is still breakfast. So what if I see the Shiva in each and every being, then my spirituality continues. Spirituality cannot be a part-time affair. If I have to be spiritual, it has to encompass my entire life. How it is possible? Not by changing my mode of life. The same worship which I was performing in my shrine room, thinking the Lord in the altar sitting there. I come down, the same Lord is now seen in each and every being. Through all activities which I do, I did not have to change my activity. A teacher still continues to be teaching the students, knowing for certain that they are the Lord in the form of the students sitting there. That's why Swami is saying that if you need not have to change your profession. A Vedantin, if you are a Vedantin, then a fisherman, what Vedanta can do, a fisherman will become a better fisherman, a businessman becomes a better businessman. That all the professions which we are doing, we do it in a much better way. If I know that after all, my profession is just an opportunity, is an occasion to serve the Lord as manifested as these beings in this universe. So all your activities with the change of the paradigm, it becomes a worship. So even in our day-to-day activity, which is a businessman, you say, how can he be practicing spirituality? So I still, long back, most probably I just related this incident. I found this incident, I read it somewhere long back. It's a wonderful incident. That G.D. Birla, that's a very famous industrialist in the time of Indian independence, gave a lot of money for this, our independence movement, in various ways helped all the freedom movement that was going on. He was a businessman but also a very pious person. His life was very simple. Never led a very luxurious life. Now his son Aditya Birla, he is relating something very interesting. What he's saying? That our father used to always instruct us that as our profession is business, know it for certain, you have to always try to earn more and more, make more profit. But at the same time, always remember your personal life should be very simple. Never go for extravagance. Lead a very simple, austere life. Then why should I go for rich if I have to live a simple, austere life? That whatever profit you get from one business, use it as an investment for starting another business. But your life should be very, very simple. So still we may ask, then why for that? And the next thing which G.D. Birla is saying is very interesting. When you start another business, it is not that you are earning money for yourself because you are leading a very simple life. It is for sustaining another 10% who will be working for you. So you are giving employment, giving more and more employment. You are looking after the welfare of the employees. For that you are running the business. And the idea was, if you simply help a person, it's all the wealth. As Swami Vivekananda in one of his letters is mentioning very nicely to Swami Akhandanandaji, that if you give in donation the entire wealth of the world to a village, today or tomorrow it will be exhausted. And again they will spread out their hands. The best service is to teach people so that they can stand on their own feet. I still remember when I was in West Bengal, I was in school. Sometimes we were invited to some other school for some various cultural events, for the annual days, for the prize giving ceremony of some other school. We used to go as guests, as chief guests, and we have to address the students. And sometimes we really faced a very awkward situation. In one school, there was the unveiling of the Swami Vivekananda statue. So the entire program was actually meant for a discussion on the contributions of Swamiji for our motherland India. That's the topic was. A local SDO. He's of course thought himself to be very educated because he has passed the quite so-called competitive exam, the WBCS, the West Bengal Civil Service Examination. He was a bubbling youth. He came and started saying something which shocked everyone. What he told? That the idea of serving others, the Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, is almost obsolete. Most probably he was trying to pamper the government officials there, the so-called political leaders, by saying the present government has eradicated poverty. So there is no question of helping others. So Swamiji, of course, is a very adorable person, but his message is, I don't know how much relevant it is. So I really felt very much, I was feeling that what type of message he wants to give to the people. And luckily I was supposed to speak after him. And then I just indicated that it is not just serving the poor by giving a few penny that is service. It is, what do you say this, our Jamshedji Tata was inspired by Swamiji. Actually, he was doing all those business for his own personal profit. And then it is from him, Swami Vivekananda, the Jamshedji Tata got the idea that why not start some technical institution in our country so that our people being educated, they can stand on their own feet. They can be the entrepreneurs. In India, even the best educational institute at present, even it's considered better than the IITs and IIMs, is the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. It's the Tata Institute. Being inspired by the words of Swamiji, Jamshedji Tata started that. That's the idea. To make the people stand on their own feet is a real service. That if you feed a person who is hungry, you feed him for one day. If you teach him agriculture, cultivation, you feed him forever. Make him stand on his own feet. And that's the idea we find, that when you are doing a business, yes, I am not most probably donating any money, but when I am with the money, I am investing for another business. I am allowing another person, another 10% to stand on their own feet. They feel that their own self-worth. Yes, I am not just begging. I earn my living. They stand on their own feet. Isn't that a service? So just change the paradigm. You're doing the same work. Seeing the Lord in each and every one, I am serving. Education institutions, I still remember in West Bengal, there is an Islamic Education Institute. That they are also a mission. Al-Amin Mission, yeah, I still remember. Al-Amin Mission. I met his founder in one of another interfaith in Medinapur Medical College. I met him and he related something wonderful. He told that when I was a young student, I used to go to the library of Gol Park, Institute of Culture, and there that time Swami Lokeshwaranandaji was the president, the secretary there. And he told I got a chance to interact with him for quite a few occasions and I became quite close to him. And now it was the time of this Ramzan month was going on and I was having conversation with Lokeshwaranandaji and he asked that you have Eid after Ramzan, isn't it? Well, yeah. So what do you do there? Well, there's a concept of zakat, that those who are rich, whatever they earn, a small portion of that they're earning has to be spent on the Eid after the Ramzan month is over. They have to donate it to the poor. And how they have to donate it? They have to give them food and clothing. And then suddenly Okeshwaranji told that why only food and clothing? Why don't you start with such huge money you get? Why don't you start educational institution? And this young boy, he found that idea, that's a quite good idea. So he went back enthusiastically and told to the so-called the religious heads of the Muslim community. And they vehemently denied. They told, no, we cannot start school with that money. Why? We cannot start the school with that money? Because it is written on our scripture, specifically it is mentioned that money used to be used for donating the poor only food and clothing. How can we start education? So he again came and gave the feedback to Swami Lokeshwaranandaji. And Lokeshwaranandaji then told, after all, you are providing them food and money. When you educate them, with that education, when they stand on their own feet, here you are giving the food and clothing just for one Eid, and it becomes a matter of their fooding and clothing for entire life. Isn't it? You are giving food and clothing. When you give education, you are giving food and clothing in a much better way. And that's the idea which do convinced a substantial number of these leaders of the Muslim community. And that's how they started that siphoning that contribution for starting that Al-Amin mission. It's a quite prestigious institution in West Bengal. Many, like Ramakrishna mission, that Al-Amin mission, many students from this Muslim community have done wonderful results because they are really that serving the same idea. That see the Lord in each and every being, serve them. It can be done. This idea can cross all the barriers of religion, can cross all the barriers of our denominations, faith, and it can pervade our entire life. There cannot be any religion which can be opposed to this fact that the service is a great religious act, spiritual act. So whether it is our business or it is education or even any job we are doing, we can be doing with the same idea of service, this bhajate. I still have so many times I was reading the story of Goodwin. That Goodwin used to serve, he was a stenographer, he was appointed as a stenographer of Swami Vivekananda's lecture. Swami Vivekananda in the West, whenever he used to deliver lecture, it was all extempore. What was out of inspiration, he used to speak. So now that the devotees, his group of devotees, they felt such invaluable words will be all lost. Once it's spoken, it's lost. In those days, there were no such electronic media system were there to record his voice or his words. So the only way, appoint some stenographer who takes the notes of his lectures. And that's how Goodwin was appointed as a stenographer. He's the Ganesha of Swami Vivekananda. You know that Veda Vyasa was narrating the Mahabharata, and Ganesha took the scribes has written. That's how the Mahabharata. Vyasa, out of inspiration, was speaking, and Lord Ganesha was taking the transcription, short as if. So here we also say this Goodwin is like Ganesha to Swamiji. His inspiration, whatever speaking, that. But in the process, when he was appointed as a stenographer, but while taking notes, something wonderful happened. These words are so powerful, it started influencing him. It influenced him so much that he almost renounced his life. He never married. Though he never took formal sannyasa, he renounced his life. When Swamiji came back to India, he came with him. He used to serve him personally with full dedication. It was a sight to see his service, such a wonderful service he used to render to Swamiji. But one day someone discovered that he is getting some remuneration from Swami Vivekananda. And immediately that word was around the devotee circle. Oh, after all, he is a paid worker. He is paid for what he is doing. These words reached Goodwin. And what he told is something wonderful. His remark was wonderful. Yes. See, I have never married. I never have gone for any job. With Swamiji, I came to this country. sacrificing my so-called life and career. But still, one thing still holds me back. My mother is still there in UK. She is a widow, she is alone, she is old. No one there is there to sustain her, to support her. So I do get some. Swamiji is kind enough to remunerate me so that I can send the money to her. So I do take the money from Swamiji for my mother, for her sustenance. But let no one think that the service I render to Swamiji is because of that money. It has nothing to do with a mercenary attitude. It is the outpour of my heart. It is just the outpour of my heart. Yes, I have my mother. In a way, I have my family, because mother still is keeping you bound in your family. For that, for my own sustenance, for my mother's sustenance, I do have to take some money. But let not one equate my work with this. This is simply the outpour of my heart. This is there just for my sustenance. So anyone, whatever job we are doing, after all, it is for the welfare of the humanity as such. There is no work which is not for the welfare of the humanity, directly or indirectly. If we also take that attitude of goodwill, that isn't it my opportunity? There are so many who could have done the job most probably better than me. They have the same skill, same learning. I got the scope, I got the opportunity. It is not just to earn the money. This money is there. It is to sustain me, my family. As I have a family, I have so many dependents. It is there. But I never equate this with my work. What I do is actually the outpour of my heart, as an opportunity to serve the Lord through the entire humanity. It becomes worship. So each and nothing we have to change. All our actions becomes bhajati. If I am established in that ekatvam, it is the same Lord who pervades the entire universe in each and every being. I never lose sight of Him. Then my entire life becomes a bhajan. Is bhajana. It's worship. So that's the idea. Even in Bhagavad we find wonderful slokas. Bhagavad we think is a pure devotional scripture. But there, even in the third part, there are 12 parts, 12 cantos in Bhagavatam. In the third part is in his Kapila's conversation. These verses come. One of these verses, Aham Sarveshu, the Lord is saying, Aham Sarveshu Bhuteshu Bhutatvam Avasthita Sada. That I am ever existing in the heart of each and every being, Sarva Bhuteshu. Tam avagyaya mang martya kurute archa virambaram. If you neglect that being who is established in each and every being, and you just worship me as a deity in the idol, it is virambanam. It is just an empty show. In the gospel we find that Sri Ramakrishna is saying that one day in the village, suddenly they heard the blowing of a conch. And from where that our sound was coming? From a dilapidated temple. That temple is not in use anymore. Dilapidated temple, this bush has grown all around it. From there, they found the sound is coming. And then they thought that most probably the shrine has been renovated, it has been cleaned, and again the deity has been installed, and most probably the worship has started. So the entire village was enthusiastic. They all ran. And they found, no, it's in the same condition. Nothing has been done. A lazy fellow of the village, his name was Paddacharan. All the villagers in short form used to call him Podo. That Podo just sitting there for without any reason, he got some conch and he was sitting lazily and just blowing the conch without any reason. And hearing that, the entire villagers, they enthusiastically ran, thinking the shrine has been again cleansed and renovated and the deity has been installed. And Sri Ramakrishna, after saying this story in the gospel, is saying, Podo shak fuketui korli gol. This is Barojona Chamchika Diteche Hana. There's some small poem, some couplet of that. That everything, nothing has been cleansed. It speaks of our body. The mind hasn't been cleansed. I don't see the Lord in each and every being. I make a pompous show of religion by an extravagance, lot of riches. I go to the shrine, gold is being offered, everything, so much of extravagance. The walls are made of gold, but with no idea of seeing the Lord in each and every being. That is just a virambana, it's just a show. It's just a waste of money, nothing else. And then the next verse is saying a very interesting thing, that yomang sarveshu bhuteshu santam atmanam ishwaram hitvarcha bhajate mauhyat bhasmani eva juhatisa. So that the one neglecting the Lord who is in each and every being, one who worships me just in the deity, is just like pouring ghee in the ashes. So when you're doing Homa, we always have to be very alert that the fire doesn't get off. If the fire is there and you are pouring ghee, then the fire will flare up. But once the fire is extinguished and now you pour ghee, what's the use? It's just waste. The ghee, the oblation was meant to keep the fire alight, and the fire has gone. What's the use of pouring? So it is just like pouring oblations in the ash. The scripture of Bhakti Bhagavatam very sternly is saying, the one who worships me with all the splendor, forgetting me, neglecting me, who am present in the heart of each and every being, is just like pouring oblations in the ash. It's of no use. So that's the idea which we find here also by this word bhajati, in this seeing me as the one and only being in everything, the one who is worshipping me, not helping, worshipping me. Question of neglect doesn't come, and the question of help also doesn't come. It's the idea of worship. The one who do that, then he never loses sight of me. Whatever he may be, sarvata vartamanopi sa yogi mai vartate, that he is always established me. Whatever his or her mode of life may be, he is always established in me. He never loses sight. He is a 24/7 spiritual practitioner. He is no more a part-time spiritual practitioner. Spirituality cannot be a part-time affair. It has to be all-encompassing. It has to encompass our life. And that is possible when you see me in each and every being and worship me through each and every being. So then in the 32nd verse, what it is saying? Atmopamena sarvatra samang pashyati yo arjuna sukhang va yadi va dukkham sa yogi paramo mataha. This now the question of not only samadarshitva, relating to the entire existence through empathy comes. That's just the way I feel pain and suffering by my interaction with the world. Do I similarly feel that pain, that suffering, or the happiness when I see the happiness in others or the pain in others? Can I become one with them? There's the highest state of spiritual evolution, when I can really feel one with the others' joy and sorrows. So that's the idea. One who judges pleasure and pain everywhere. This how? With the same standard as one applies to oneself. The standard with which you experience the pleasure and pain subjectively, the same standard is applied for others also. And then that yogi Arjuna is regarded as the highest. Samadarshitva is okay. But here it is speaking of empathy. The word empathy, what it means, it's something different from sympathy. Sympathy is okay. It's like a duty. Someone is suffering. It is my duty to show sympathy, compassion to him. Empathy is to feel that. When the shoe is pinching, for someone it is pinching, what I do, I see that person is limping. And I may just simply laugh at him or make fun of him. But if I open my shoes and wear his shoes, then I will know the reason that why he is limping, isn't it? So this is empathy. Just to open my shoes and wear the other shoes to find where the shoe pinches. That is the empathy. And that's the idea which Bhagavan is saying here. You'll find this in the life of Ramakrishna. Two boatmen were quarreling. Sri Ramakrishna was watching from a distance. From a long distance he was watching. And they became quite agitated when they were quarreling. And then one of the boatmen hit hard the other boatman on his back. Sri Ramakrishna was just watching from quite a far distance, and he shouted in pain. Hriday came running, and he saw really the marks of the finger on Sri Ramakrishna's back. It was red. And he asked Sri Ramakrishna that, who has hit you? And then when Sri Ramakrishna related that this boatman hit the other boatman, even Hriday couldn't believe that how is it possible? For us also it is almost impossible to believe. But Sri Ramakrishna himself gives a very nice example. That he says, that our ego is like a pot. It has segregated us from the entire existence. And he gives a nice example. Suppose you immerse a pot in the ocean. A small amount of ocean water enters into the pot. And now you say it is pot water. It is the same ocean water. Now you say it is the pot water. And this pot segregates this pot, so-called pot water, from the ocean water. The waves of the ocean no more disturbs the water inside the pot. Outside there are waves. Inside the pot the water is calm. It is not getting affected. Sri Ramakrishna is saying our ego is something like that. Like that pot, it creates as if a barrier to create a sense of you and me. There was ekatvam. It was the same oneness. Suddenly that barrier came to create a sense of you and me. And the stronger it is, the more I become apathetic towards the entire creation. I may show sympathy as my duty, but I really don't feel the joy and suffering of others as something as my own. So that examples which we give again and again, that it is not something poetic word. If you see the small children for whom the ego is yet to grow, their consciousness is very diffused, you will find they relate so easily in each other's joys and sorrows. When the children are playing, one falls down and starts crying, the other starts crying. It's a common sight. They very easily relate. Why their ego boundaries are something is yet to grow. It's very feeble. The more we grow, the more our ego becomes stratified, the more we become apathetic to the entire creation. So this higher spiritual realization speaks of obliteration of the ego. The pot has obliterated. Your pot water has again become one with the ocean water. Now you really relate through your so-called all your feelings with the entire world. When Swami Vivekananda was in Belur Math, one day night, Swami Vijnanananda saw that he's pacing up and down the veranda, couldn't sleep. And this Swami Turiyananda asked him that what has happened? Why you are so, as if you are restless? And Swamiji was constantly saying that somewhere something has happened. I feel extremely agitated. I cannot sleep. And next day morning the news was in Fiji there was a tremendous earthquake. Many people have died. The next day. And the Swami is writing that letter saying that Swamiji's heart has become as sensitive as a seismograph. So some of these things we cannot believe because we cannot relate to it. But that's what is the heart of a spiritually realized soul. And that's the highest state where the ego has totally obliterated. That ekatvam has now made you one with the entire existence. You in no way feel separate from that. Now the question comes that today, it's almost the time over, that it appears to be a bit apparently contradictory. That we studied in the 56th verse of the second chapter, we already studied. That is, Sthita Pragya is never being perturbed by the dualities of life, Sukha and Dukkha. That this verse was, Dukkheshvanu Dvignamana, Sukheshu Vigata Spriha, Vitaraga Bhayakrodha, Sthitadhir Muni Rajyate. A Sthitadhi, the one who is equipoised, is not in any way perturbed by the dualities of life. And here Bhagavan is saying, one feels the joys and suffering of other as intensely as the joys and suffering of oneself. Isn't it contradictory? It's not contradictory. So that's why Bhagavad Gita has to be studied as a whole. We have to take all these verses as a whole and try to find out the meaning. And then we will find the ideas are getting more clarified. If we take just one verse and try to find out its meaning, and we will find that there are so many this discordant notes as if in the Bhagavad Gita. It is not there. It actually speaks of a wonderful idea of really developing equanimity within, and then you relate with the entire world. In short, we can say this: what happens when you become a sthitadhi, as has been spoken of in the 56th verse of the second chapter, that dukkheshvan udvignamana, you are not udvigna in dukkha, sukheshu vigataspriya, I have no attachment for sukha, I am vitaraga. What has happened? You have developed a state of equipoise. When you develop that, in this chapter we have read one thing, that you relate to the world, you relate to the Lord as Nitya as well as Leela. So when you have attained that equipoise, and now when you're relating to the Leela aspect of the world, one thing happens. Your mind has no noise. The Leela aspect of the world has a wonderful thing which has been spoken of in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So you have to read all these chapters together. Saha yagya praja srishtva. We read that. That when he created this world, the one who was beyond this phenomenal existence, when the phenomenal came to existence, he created it with yagya. Saha yagya praja srishtva. What is yagya? Interbeing. Whether this mother feels love for the child. Is it the mother who loves the child? No. The Lord created the universe in such a way that he implanted love in the mother's heart, so that through that love, God is taking care of his creation. The child is taken care of. Mother is helpless. She has to. She's bound to love the child. So that is the idea of yagya. So when mind gets clouded, you will find even there are so many criminal cases where the mother has killed the child. You will find there shocking news. And you may say, how is it possible? Yes, that in the heart love is there, but it gets filtered out when my mind is extremely selfish, cocooned from the entire world, too much bothered by my own likes and dislikes. That filters. It is there. I am not aware of it. So when you become sthitadhi, then when you are relating to the Leela aspect of the Lord, you find that your heart always is welling with that empathy. It is not something you have to culture. It is already there. Our genes are altruistic. It is already there. Our selfishness clouds our mind to filter it out. Remove that, and that is something which flows from your heart. And now you relate to the world with empathy. So when in the 56th verse they are speaking of to go beyond joys and sorrows, it is very subjective. Your own joys and sorrows, let it not disturb you. Then you don't become like a cabbage, that you put a knife, no reaction. No. You become extremely sensitive now. When you can go beyond the joys and sorrows, the yagya with which this world has been created, in your calm mind, it is not being filtered, it comes from your heart. Now in the creation, when you're relating to it, you find you have become more intensely sensitive to the pleasures and pain of the world. It comes spontaneously from your heart, and there is no other way than to relate to others through empathy. It is something spontaneous. It comes from within. It wells from within. No one can stop it, and there is no need to culture it. We just have to remove the filtering factor in the form of selfishness, of intense likes and dislikes. And that the love No need to culture. It is there. Sahayagya prajasishtva purovacha prajapati. Through this you flourish. Anena prashavish shradhvam. That was slow. This is your kamadhuk. This is the cow. This is the milching cow. This is going to give you prosperity. This win-win situation, empathy, synergy. These are the things in your heart with which Lord has created you. That will make you prosperous, the world prosperous. So this speaks of this abhyuthana and nishreyasa working together. Your atmana moksha, your own liberation, is not at the cost of jagat hita. These two, nishreyasa and abhyudaya. Nishreyasa is your own spiritual liberation, abhyudaya is the jagat hita. These two can synchronize. There is no need to segregate them. And that's how you reach your spiritual fulfillment, where it is all encompassing. It's not just accepting a part of the reality and negating the other. You accept the reality as a whole. So with this we stop our discussion. We'll continue again in the next class. Thank you all. Namaskar.